In today's episode of Adventure Sparker, we tip some buckets, flop some rocks, melt a witch, and build a totally unnecessary gift shop that I may or may not need to delete later. All that and more on the way in today's episode, so without any further ado, let's spark some adventure.
Let's let the good times roll.
Good day everyone, and welcome back to Adventure Sparker. Today we're continuing to work on my Wizard of Oz inspired Waterpark blueprint called the Water-ful Wizard of Oz. Today I have three main goals. The first is create a little tippy bucket and splash area in the shallows of the wave pool. The second is to continue working on some effects for the water coaster, including making a scene of the Wicked Witch melting. And finally, we're going to be doing a little gift shop in the Emerald City part of the build. Lots to do. We are getting close to the home stretch here, which is nice, but it also feels like there's a lot more things that I gotta do. So, like I said, we're starting off with building a tippy bucket, so I actually placed some blueprints that I found on the workshop there just to get some inspiration for how they worked and what kind of pieces people used, and obviously I didn't want to copy that exactly, I am submitting this to a contest after all, so everything has to be my own creation, so I can't copy anything because that would be wrong and scandalocious, as Galinda would say. I got a suggestion to pop in some Oz-themed puns, so get ready for that, because I have a lot of puns in mind, and they are totally awesome. Okay, please don't click away. These are going to be so bad. But so I'm working on a splash bucket there, and I tried out a few different pieces before I started filming, but I ended up settling on this pottery piece, this like Greek mythology jug. I just colored it emerald green, and it seems to work. And then I used the art pieces, like the cylinder shapes, to kind of create the supports. And then I used one of the coaster supports to create kind of like a like that cross beam area, and that's kind of like the axis along which the bucket will be tipping. And it seemed to work pretty good, and this actually ended up being a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. It was just a matter of placing all of the pieces exactly where I wanted them to be, and it took a little bit of fine-tuning and adjustment. Like you see, I had it up on the dome of that little tower thing, and I just moved it down, but you know what, like the overall mechanics of it, not too bad. So yeah, I'm just trying to make it look a little more realistic. I put one of the sign pieces within the jug to actually look like it was filled with water. I would have loved to use there's these water pieces that you can use, like I think they're meant for fountains, but they didn't scale down small enough, so I had to settle for that solid piece, but it works. The only thing that I might do is I might actually raise it up within the jug, because it's kind of sitting a little far down, and you'll see once I add the actual water emitters, it doesn't quite sit right. Like, I don't think I got the pour effect to work exactly how I envisioned it, but thinking back, I think I just got to raise up that one piece there. Other than that, I think it's fine. The other thing I wanted to do is create a little spout or something for the water to fill up, because obviously when these buckets flip, they gotta fill up again somehow, and in real life how these work is that these spouts will fill the buckets up with water, and then once it reaches a certain amount of volume, it'll be heavy enough that the bucket will tip over. Like it's kind of like it's weighted and it's on an angle, so there's some physics involved, and I kind of wanted to simulate that as best as I can. Now when I actually go to do the triggers, the actual speed at which that happens is a lot faster than you see in real life. Like usually it takes over a minute for the buckets to fill up if you go to a real life water park. In this one, it takes 10 minutes, but that's just some Aussian magic for you. But yeah, I use these small fountain jets to create those little spout thing. I really wanted to do one stream of water, like a nice thick stream of fountain. Yeah, that was not worded well, but we're gonna keep rolling with it. Oh my god. But the actual length that was needed for the spout to run out was too much, so it looked like it was completely missing the bucket, so I had to settle for those smaller ones, and I just made a group of them to make it more like the effect that I wanted. And then I'm just testing out a few of the different emitters here, because there's different types of splashes and fountains and jets but they all have different mechanics and different physics, so I needed something that would look like it was pouring out. So what I end up doing is using the exact same type of emitter that I use for the spout, but the bigger version. So this is the large fountain jet, and it ends up working pretty well. Again, like I think I need to adjust a few things to make it look a little more realistic, but the idea is there. And then it was just a matter of setting down an event sequencer and putting all the timing so that it worked, so that you had it fill up. And then once it was filled, or after a couple seconds, it would tilt over, and then when it was in the right position, that's when the water would pour over. And you know what? It worked really well. Yeah, like I feel like there's always things that I want to go back and fine tune a little more and adjust and make better. And obviously, as I continue to play the game, and as I continue to watch other creators and learn more things, I pick up on things that I didn't know the first time around. So, like, obviously, like I could just bulldoze the park and restart from scratch and make it better, but that would be a waste. So I don't want to quite do that. But there are a few things that I'm like, okay, maybe I can adjust this and go back to this. So we'll see if I have time for that, because I do have to get this submitted by, I know the contest was extended, but I know the original deadline was January 19th, but we'll see. And then just what I'm doing here to complete this build is adding some misters to those little pipes that stick out. I built this tower a long time ago. I don't even remember if I built it on screen or not. I think I actually had it done before I even started the channel. But it was always intended to be a tipping bucket, but it just took me a while to get there. I'm like, it's going to be one of the last things I do, and like I said, kind of on the home stretch. As you can see now, we are back into the witch's castle, and we're just adjusting her a little bit. Something that I said earlier is that I wanted to fix her forehead, maybe add another piece so it looks a little more rounded and not as like shrink wrapped to her head. It does look a little better. It's not quite the improvement I was looking for, but again, we're not going to spend too much time fussing over it. And then I wanted to add in some hair. And what I do here is very simple. Yeah, like I don't do anything too detailed here. And again, I can't, even if I knew how, because I got to be wary of my pieces. I am getting close. Like I think at the end of this build, I'm at 3,200 pieces, and I still feel like there's a lot of detailing and little things that I need to do that are going to take up, it's going to take me to the limit. So I got to be careful. So yeah, very, very simple, very basic hair, but she does look a lot better after adding it in. And the reason why I'm trying to fix the witch now rather than waiting until the very end is because I'm going to be duplicating her to put in another scene. So giving her some new motions and some new effects. So before I do that, I had to make sure that she was perfect. It's the same as the last episode. Before I added the copy of the wizard animatronic, I had to perfect him because I was duplicating him and they had to be the same. And then what you just saw me do there, in one of the buildings that I'm not using is where I'm hiding all of the event sequencers. That way they're hidden, but I know where all of them are. So if I need to go back to them, they're in, one location. They're easy to find. They're all labeled, so I know exactly what they control. And it's just a fun way to organize them. And it also adds a sense of realism because if you think like all of the things in the park, or at least in an area of the park, would be grouped together in one control room. So that's basically what I created. And now what I'm doing is dressing up this little part of the lift hill and the return part of the flume. And I'm going to put that into a little mountain. Now, I have done a bit of terrain work in other parks to create this kind of effect. Like once we get into my Magic Kingdom series, you'll see that I did a recreation of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train where I, actually terraform the ground to create tunnels and create effects and caverns and all of that cool stuff. But because this is a blueprint, I can't copy over terrain. So I have to use these rocks if I want to do that kind of effect. And I've never done this before. So, yeah, this was definitely a challenge for me, and you're going to see me work with it a little bit. I still wonder if I should go back and fix it, not because I'm being picky, but because I think I'm being inefficient with the pieces and I'm using too many, and I think I can, help be more mindful of my piece count if I go back and maybe use some larger pieces. I don't know. Like, I think just might just be something that takes a bit of finagling to get right. But I mean, the overall effect is roughly what I was looking for. The only other thing that kind of concerns me is that I used this dark tropical rock because I'm like, it's the Wicked Witch of the West area. It makes sense that it's going to be dark and foreboding, but you can see that from the rest of the area, and it doesn't fit. Like I wanted something darker than the Mediterranean rock that I used around the wave pool just to create a bit of contrast, but like I think this is too dark and it doesn't fit with the rest of the area. So I might go back and maybe use the Taiga rock, like that's the one that's a little more mossy, but it's still that lighter gray and not this super dark color. So it might look different the next time I load up the park, but that's okay. But yeah, I think I'm going to cut through a bit of this because I actually have a lot of content recorded, more than I think is necessary. So I'm just going to jump ahead to where I start working on the witch herself. But yeah, now I'm just placing the witch down, and in a moment you'll see me grab one of the splashy emitters. And the idea here is that she's going to be doused in water, and then she's going to kind of swirl down into the ground. In real life, you'd think there'd be a trapdoor or something. In Planet Coaster, we'll just have to suspend our disbelief. But yeah, it'll simulate that whole melting scene from the movie. So the witch melts away, you continue out of the tunnel, and then after that you hit the final jet booster and make your way back to Oz, and that's kind of like your triumphant end to your journey. So obviously, like, we're hitting all of like the big points of the movie very quickly. Like it's like tornado, yellow brick road, meeting the wizard, witch's castle, witch melting, and that's it. Like those are the major points. But most water slides aren't themed at all, so it makes sense that we only get a few small scenes. But yeah, here again you can see me working with the animatronic pieces, working with the event sequencer to make sure I get the movements the way I want. And my idea here was that her first movement would be to throw her arms up in the air. So they'd be kind of to her sides as you approach her. And then once the water gets splashed, her arms go up. And then she starts to spin and descend. So here you can see me adding the vertical platform. And this is the first time I think I've used it in a build, because I've used a rotational one lots of times, but not the horizontal one and not the vertical one. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, you can kind of see, like, I get the movements pretty good. It's just a matter of making sure she's positioned right and timed right. But, arms go up, she spins, she goes down. It's a cute little effect. And then the last thing I do is I add in a smoke emitter. And then you can see her poking out of the ground there. So I couldn't get the, the vertical distance is set. Like I can't change how far down she goes. So you can still see her peeking up a little bit. So I think that's where my inspiration to add the smoke came from. So that, if you're looking back, you might see a bit of the witch still, but you can see mostly the smoke. Like the smoke will try to hide her, and it's just the hat and maybe the top of her head sticking up. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. So that scene, I was pretty happy with it. And now I'm just going back and making some adjustments to the Emerald City area. So I created these like cylindrical domed towers, kind of like your classic Emerald City towers. Like this is just classic Emerald City imagery, and I kind of used that to round out the rest of the land. So I placed a few more of those, especially in the background, kind of where like I don't have much to go behind the water coaster. Like ideally, if you place down the blueprints, I figure it's kind of up to you to add scenery and trees and stuff to kind of block out that edge. But I figured a few towers would help out a bit. And then I go back to this little building, which I only had the 2 food shops originally. And I'm like, you know what? I need to figure out a way to shape this. So I figured, why not add an extension here, a second building that will also double as a gift shop. And then I'm like, hey, instead of just doing a regular gift shop window, why don't I actually make it into a fully fledged interior? Which, in retrospect, probably not my smartest move, considering that I've been talking all this time about being careful of how many pieces I use, but here I go anyways. Making a full interior with gifts and shelves and everything. I mean, it's nothing terribly crazy, but still more than I maybe should be doing for this kind of build. So worst comes to worst, this video might be the only evidence that this existed, but we'll see. Like I have other areas where I think I can remove inefficiencies first before I need to worry about scaling back the gift shop. But yeah, it is something that I might need to do away with. But yeah, here, just like with the tipping buckets, I was looking at a few blueprints, trying to figure out what other creators have done, and taking inspiration, but not copying. We don't copy here, we get inspired. But one of the things I saw was hiding these little counter bits with the Viking sign. And again, I make it my own. It's not the same, but I do really like the effect there. I kind of started here with making it go all the way across the two walls. I think I eventually scale it back, and instead of using the sign, like it's a sign piece on the front and the back, and then what was it, a wall decoration for the actual countertop, I ended up removing those side pieces and just leaving it as the like that piece there, because I really don't mind the Celtic patterning there. Like I recolor it, and like I don't know if it really works for an Oz theme, but you know, again, you gotta suspend your disbelief sometimes with Planet Coaster, and if you believe it works, it works. So yeah, that is what I'm choosing to believe, and that's where we are. But yeah, this was kind of cool too, because even if I don't end up keeping this for the final blueprint, it was good practice for my later park builds where I don't have a piece limit to adhere to, because when I actually get into my parks like Magic Kingdoms, I want to be able to do these realistic kind of interiors, or at least most shops. Maybe not all of them, but I just like building things that are fully fleshed out and fully explorable, especially now that we have the guest camera mode. Like, you know, I want to create these little hidden places that you can explore when you walk around the park. So yeah, what I'm doing now is trying to build a shelf, and I will admit I am not the most handy person with hardware in real life, which made it hard for me to know what pieces to use in the game. So again, you're gonna see me kind of pop over to those other blueprints to get some inspiration, see what they did, and there's a few different metal support beams in the game, and they work really well for this kind of stuff. And again, I don't copy it exactly, like I actually did a much more simplified version than the blueprints I looked at, but it at least gave me an idea of which direction to go with this. And you know what, it's pretty cute. Like, it's a little smaller than what I was hoping for. And again, I think that's just me trying to look at the other blueprints as little as possible. But it works, and I was able to fit a few things on there. Like, you'll see me add some beach balls, some other decorations, or some marketplace pieces in the Viking theme. Yes. So I use some of those to kind of flesh out what, you know, things that you expect to see in this kind of gift shop. Eventually you'll see, once I build the sign, that I end up calling it the Emerald Emporium, but the idea is that it's like a place to buy boat souvenirs and like your general water park, beach, whatever kind of stuff. So one of the stalls is a Looney Balloons, because obviously Oz, we gotta have balloons, and then the other stall is just another Splash Emporium. So even though we have one in Munchkinland, this would just be a second one, so you don't have to walk all the way back there. So yeah, like I add inner tubes, beach balls, and then I think in just a moment I'm going to grab this really cool turtle piece that scales down really small, like it looks like a little tchotchke or a souvenir, or you know, something that you can buy at these parks, and it works really well. And again, it kind of fleshes it out, so it's not all the same kind of stuff. Then I add a few of these other like pottery pieces, recolor them in the Oz colors, and again, it kind of works like little take-home souvenirs. And another thing I really like about this shop is that I liked having this Splash Emporium in the Munchkinland Plaza, but then here, like, you know, it's like going to Munchkin City and exploring what the city has to offer, the shops, the business owners. Like, you know, in the movies, we don't really see too much outside of like the main streets and like the Wizard's Palace, except for like, I guess the Wiccan movie does show a few of the shops and stuff, but I really wanted to lean into that Emerald City is not just a palace, it's a living, breathing city with people and businesses and life, and it makes sense that you would have little little things like this to explore. And now comes the hard part, which is adding a roof to this oddly shaped building that I've created. This took so much work, but something I did know I want to do was include a few towers. So I built those up, and then the rest of the roof I just kind of create something small. Now here I used a marble flooring piece to create a ceiling. I don't like it. Not that I don't like it, because I like how it looks on the inside, but you have that little yellow piece sticking out, and it would be fine if it was the same all the way around. Like I could have it be like a trim, but it only sticks out on one side or the other. Like there's no in between here. So it's just an annoying thing. And for now, like you just saw, like I moved it over so I can hide it over in the background. You know, I just split it from the building to make that work. But you can still see it when you're riding by on the water side. So I don't want to leave it like that, but that might be my only option for now. I don't know. I might just get rid of that altogether, because I mean, I guess like the when you see the roofs from the inside, it looks fine. It's just when they're clipping through the walls and stuff and clipping through each other, it doesn't look exactly how it should. But again, we'll see. And you know what? Now that I'm saying it out loud, getting rid of that ceiling piece might be a really easy way to get rid of some extra pieces that I don't necessarily need. So yeah, actually, yeah, after talking about it out loud, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Now, another thing I wanted to do, or another thing that I try to do here is, because I had the tower so closely together with that square part, I just try to offset it by a meter just to, create a little more depth and dimensionality. And I end up shuffling it around. Like I had it protruding inwards at first, and then I just moved it outwards because it was clipping into the shop next door, and we didn't want that. And then my final step here is just to add a bit of signage. So I use the in-game, in-brand awnings to actually designate what each stall is, but then I use a bigger sign to actually name the overall restaurant. And as you're going to see in a moment, it is a really cute Aussian theme, and it's Toto's Treats. Yeah, there we go, Toto's Treats. Yeah, I don't even know how I came up with that, but it's cute and I love it. And then, like I said earlier, the actual gift shop is going to be called the Emerald Emporium, kind of like your one-stop shop for the Emerald City. And yeah, I think these signs are really cute. I really love how we can use the editable text pieces on the existing signs, because I find the text is too small when you use the like the in-game signs. All right, and then the last thing I do here is experiment with adding some foliage. This might not be the final, location or even species of plants that I use, but I at least wanted to put it down so I have an idea of what this area would look like once they are added in for reals. But yeah, because I mean, plants are such an integral part of any build. Like, they just make your builds feel more complete. They make it feel more natural. And on a practical level, I mean, you gotta give your guests some shade. So, yeah. It took me a while to kind of figure out what style of plants I want to use. Like, obviously, the cherry blossoms work wonderfully in the Munchkinland area. But in the Emerald City, it's like, well, you don't really see trees in the movie. So what species do they have? Are they tropical? Are they more temperate? And I mean, realistically, I think it's a blend of the two. And then my last step was just to add a little planter there to fill in that gap. And then because it was sticking into the interior, I just decided to make it work and added some flowers on the inside as well. But yeah, that's the end of our session for today. We actually got a lot done. Like, I didn't feel like I did, but rewatching this back, we actually did quite a bit. And we are getting very close to the end. I think I'm going to do one more episode because I definitely need to decorate the other two water launches for the water coaster. And I also want to add some signage to Wicked Twisters and just add a few more details. But I don't think I'm going to finish absolutely everything on camera. And, I kind of want to leave a bit of mystery for the contest, so I don't want to give away all my secrets here. So yeah, I think I'm going to do one more recording session, just get done as much as I do, and then that'll be it for this series until after the contest, in which case I'll come back and do a tour of the park and kind of show you any other changes that I made. But yeah, I really love how this is coming along, and I've definitely learned a lot throughout this process, so I'm excited to keep working with it and see what we come up with next time. Until then, be sure to become a subscriber. I'm already at 25 subs, which is kind of crazy considering this channel is, 2 weeks old? Not even. So I'm very grateful for that and very appreciative of everyone who's been showing their support and following along so far. It means a lot to me, so thank you so much. And if you still can't get enough, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I am at AdventureSparker. And yeah, Instagram is the only place where I'm at right now, but if you want to see me on any other platforms, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, thank you once again for watching, and until next time, have a good one.